Why were ticks so bad in 2024? I'm including this question in my Common Sense Lyme Disease series where I address issues that come up in my practice. So let's begin. There were many ticks and illnesses more than ever, it seemed, in 2024. There's multiple factors that led to these ticks being harder to avoid and diseases that were hard to ignore. One of the hottest topics, so to speak, is that there's been a climate shift. It seems like the warmer weather keeps ticks active longer. People are outside and getting exposed to ticks more, but so are dogs and pets outdoors, and they're more likely to pick up those ticks. Also, the wetter climate allows more ticks to survive longer outside. Also, ticks are spreading with the changing climate up to Canada, but also all the way down to migrating birds to the south. There's also been a wildlife boom. More deer and more mice seem to be available as troublemakers in various communities. Perhaps because people are moving into communities and more cover and more food for mice. Birds help carry ticks to new places. And there's more human exposure. People are moving more into nature. They're hiking. They're more active outside. They're walking. And landscaping has increased the tick encounter, even though people are landscaping to try to protect themselves from the tick. But the very activity of gardening and other activity increases the exposure. And plus, there's new ticks. The Lone Star tick is moving to the northeast and other parts of the country instead of just the deer tick, the dog tick, the wood tick. Also, the Asian longhorn ticks have been spreading fast. They've been identified in the northeast, but in other locations. And they bring new diseases and more confusion with regard to which tick and what's going on with the Lyme disease. The result is Lyme and other tick-borne illnesses have been surging. Even low-risk areas are now seeing Lyme disease and tick-borne infections. So moving forward, the tick season is now year-round, so there might be less cases in the winter in the northeast. But it's interesting that in the south, they don't have quite the same cycle. And there was a study in Mississippi where most of the deer ticks were showing up in the November to March period, and not so many in the summer. So it depends on what part of the country it is when your exposure is. But still, prevention, awareness, early tick treatment are very important and remain important. Now, the prevention isn't enough, so I always remind my patients to drop their clothes in a dryer to kill or at least knock the ticks off the clothes. Be careful with animals, and particularly my urge is to keep the pets out of bed. Also, be careful where you're sitting because there's always exposure to ticks wherever the outside dog or outside cat has been, even if you're being careful. So thank you for joining me for this Common Sense Lyme series. Have a good day.